we left off last time. Basically, we went over like my living situation whenever I was young. We went over my first marriage with Annika and kind of where that was going. We went over the first time I used. We went over my ex, Amanda, lying about us having a child together and what that did to me. So there was all types of stuff that was going on that kind of I just had to work through, I guess. I feel like I think the thing that affected me the most, Amanda lying to me about our son, that was hard. But of course, she had things happen to her that were hard for her. So I understood.
Right.
And then, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Like I started using, and I guess like I enjoyed it for sure. It wasn't something that I did every single day. Like by far it.
So how did it start and what did it start with?
So it started with the oxys, the blues, and it started because I was injured. I ended up getting a regular script of Vikes, and I was taking those as prescribed. Everything was as it was supposed to be. And I told my doctor I did not need them anymore because I felt like my back was better.
And then a few days later,
I ended up going into withdrawal.
Right.
And then one of my buddies that I worked with, he was like, I know what's happening with you. Here, take this and it'll make you feel better. And it was a much higher dose than what I was used to. So then I actually got kind of uplifted by it. And it was while all this other stuff was happening. So, I mean, it was hard. It just, I don't feel like I used it completely as a crutch because of everything that was going on. But like I said, I was working nights. I was tired. I friggin' every day I got home, I felt like I was failing as a parent because I'd get home and be taking care of Jax and I didn't have the energy. And he was a 2-year-old. He was running around and didn't know what to do with himself and was getting into everything and being curious. So me showing up tired at home every day and not being able to be the best dad I could be, that sucked. And then pills came into the picture and it was like, I was just the best I've ever been at being a dad.
So it gave you back that energy and motivation to want to play with your child.
Yeah, because I didn't need the sleep as much then. I felt like I was a better version of myself where even though, like, even besides not being super tired, I was moving and we were doing things that I wouldn't normally do because I forgot what it was like to be alive because I was so fucking tired all the time. Right. So it kind of supplemented that for me. So I started, using it more often. So
when you would use it more often, would you want to work more often? You would be motivated to make more money so you get what you needed. It causes this whole big spiral.
I mainly started using it and I would be at work, but it'd be later in the shift. So I'd take that to finish up the shift and then I'd go home, probably take a couple more and hang out with Jax. And then I'd go to work the next night. And I think enough time was passing. I wasn't really going back into withdrawal, but it was just kind of starting each time. So I kind of started hitting points where I was like, I'm just down. Or I'm extra tired today. And I started looking forward to be able to have those because it's like when I take this, it's going to make all that go away and I'm going to be a better me.
Right. And it's that instant fix at first, but then eventually you get to the point where it's not fun anymore, right?
I think I started realizing that I didn't like where I was when... Like there were a couple of times where I knew I wasn't going to have money. And so I was finding, hey, whatever I need to do to get money, if I need to owe you a little bit, I will. If I need to sell some Mary Jane, cool, whatever I need to do to get that little bit of cash so I can get some for the night. That started bugging me. And then I started hitting a point where like it would be my guy's day off work. And before I would wake up early when I already wasn't getting enough sleep And before I would go into work, I would meet him across town or something so that I could actually get some. And I'd end up being late for work, and I would make up all these excuses about why I was late and all types of stuff. And it was just like I was going out of my way, making it so everything revolved around me getting these pills.
Right. Oh my God. I remember those days because if you knew you didn't have something to wake up to, oh my God. And it's like game on. You'll do whatever you have to do. Freak
Yep.
work. You don't care about it at that point. You need to do what you need to do to function.
So, and I'm stuck in this cycle. I
Right.
am starting to realize, things are kind of getting bad. And I think I don't really know what I was feeling at that time. That's my thing. I wasn't running from anything. Yes, I had traumas in my past. I had a lot go on. I had a lot of things that would normally break people from a mental health aspect, but it wasn't really about any of that. I was literally just running from the withdrawal and like chasing that high a little bit again. So it was kind of a constant cycle. And then once I started falling into that trap where I did anything I could to get some, I remember telling myself, like, I'm going to figure out how to get through this, and I can beat these withdrawals, because I started doing research and I started figuring out, okay, how long is it going to take to get through this? I only have to go through 3, 4, or 5-ish bad days, and then it's done. That's not that bad. So I was starting to figure out how I could time things so that I could actually get through the withdrawal and I would just be done with it. But most of the people in here know how that goes. You end up on day like 2 or something and the shit's still available. So I want to go get that shit because I'm fucking miserable.
Right. Or you buy a certain amount to think you're going to get yourself by, and you blow through that by day 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And you're like, yep, I'm right back to square one again.
Oh, I would do that every time.
I would do that every time too. I had like zero self-control because when something was in my hands, I just wanted what I had at that time, and I would figure it out later about tomorrow.
I would always convince myself, like, if I had 10 of them to last me 5 days or whatever, I'd be like, all right, I can take 2 a day. Perfect. I got this. So I'd take my 2, I'd be halfway through the day, and then I'd be like, you know what? Tonight's a really rough night at work. I'm going to take an extra one, and just tomorrow I won't take that other.
Wow, I can relate to that so much. Oh my God, dude, I remember those days.
And then you end up hitting that point where it's been, you're on day 4 out of those 10 days. No more are coming.
Right.
But you just can't. You hit a point where you're so far behind, you're just like, fuck it. I'm at least going to be high one more time if I'm going to be miserable. So then you take 2 at once because you want it to be worth it.
Right.
So,
oh my God. I can remember those days of being like, well, what's the point if I'm not going to feel anything off of it? Like,
right. Yeah.
Right.
I don't want base level this time. I want to feel up. But at the same time, you can't get that up. You're pushing on a fucking cement ceiling every time. You never hit that up again.
Right.
So it's all
now,
that.
were you mixing other substances also, or were you just doing opiates? Were you drinking? Were you were there days where you'd be like, oh, I'll have a few drinks to help me get through tonight?
Yeah, my other buddy Kyle that I worked with, me and him would do cola quite a bit. I never got as hooked on that. That was kind of one of those things I would just do it every maybe week or so. During this time, I was not hooked on the cola at all. So I was doing that. I usually wouldn't have to pay for it because he knew I didn't have the money. But he just wanted somebody to hang out with because me and him were super cool. So he would usually get it, and me and him would go to his place. We'd do it together, and I'd be out all night. And this entire time, I start thinking like, I'm risking my life and myself and my kids and like everything for these.
Now, at this time, was your significant other at the time like riding you over it? Did they see what was going on, or were they unaware of what was going on?
No, she didn't know what was happening. Not like that. I'm sure she had some suspicions, but she didn't know what was happening because.
So at this time, you were still maintaining what you needed to do
Yep.
for the household.
Oh,
Like the
yeah.
bills were paid, the bills were on time.
Bills weren't really on time, but they were never on time because we didn't, even before this, we didn't make enough money. So
Okay.
we were falling a little bit farther behind, but I was also finding ways to make sure that it didn't get that far.
Right.
So that was
Like
kind
robbing, basically robbing Peter to pay Paul to keep things good in the moment.
right. And that was how it constantly went. We had a point where I screwed over one of my homies that I knew for quite a while. We weren't like super close, but we would kick it back in high school every once in a while. And he gave me some money, told me, hey man, go find some stuff for yourself. And my mom needs some too, because she was a chronic pain patient and she was having trouble getting her scripts. So I was like, all right, bet. I went. It took me a little bit to find some stuff. I went, got the stuff, and then I told him, I haven't found any yet. And like the next day, I told him, hey, do you need this money back or whatever? I was like trying to make up excuses. So I was acting like I still had it. And he was like, no,
Right.
hold on to it. Just once you find some, grab them. And I'm like, all right, cool. I got you. Never ended up grabbing them. I ended up blowing them off, and he had to have known what was happening. But shortly after, I was working a second job on top of everything, trying to make ends meet because I had to supplement this addiction and everything now. So I was doing tree service. I show up with, oh gosh, this was afterwards. I show up with my buddy Thomas, and I had Jax with us. I picked him up, and we were going to my place, and it was probably like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We got off early, and I noticed my door is kicked in. And I'm like, oh, what the hell?
Right.
So I tell Thomas, hang out outside with Jax, and I go in the house and check everything, and somebody ran out the side and all types of stuff, and we didn't see who it was. But I guarantee it was him, my old buddy, because I ripped him off. I never went after him, nothing, because I knew.
Right, because at that point you knew that you were guilty. You're not going to cause attention to yourself, so you let things go.
And he completely trashed the house. I mean,
Wow.
completely destroyed it. The only place he didn't touch was my kid's room, which I appreciate.
Like, what did he do? Like, what? Like, ransacked it? Like, smash things? Like, explain.
He was looking for anything he could to get his money back. So he like looked under the bed. He flipped the mattress over and then threw apart our room because he was looking to see if I had money hidden. He stole my Xbox, which was broken anyways. Otherwise, I would have sold it already.
I was gonna say that would have been gone a long time ago, right?
Yeah, it was shitty. He smashed my TV.
Wow.
Yeah,
He should have taken the TV. If he was smart, he could have sold it.
I think he realized I pulled up because
okay.
he was
Makes
still there.
sense. Makes sense.
So all that stuff happened. So all this stuff happened later on. I was at that grocery store job. I ended up getting falsely. So this is the bad part. I'm doing all this shady shit, but it did not once affect my job. So there was someone that had been stealing from work, and I was one of the managers. So I had keys and all types of stuff. And it was the general manager's last day at that store, and he wanted to make a name for himself because someone had been stealing for a while.
Right.
And we're just like, whatever. So he wanted to make a name for himself. So he was like, I'm going to catch this person. So he put up extra cameras that nobody else knew about. I am in there. I'm working the shift. We're doing everything fine. And during that shift, one of the customers that comes in, he always got the same thing. and he gets 4 packs of Newports. So I grabbed those for him. I put them up at the self checkout, and I was waiting for this dude to come up and do his thing. So before he comes up, my cashier comes back, and I go back to doing my job because she was on lunch. She took those packs of cigarettes and she put them in her car because she was the one that had been stealing $13,000 worth of cigarettes and alcohol over the course of like a year and a half.
Wow.
So that morning, whenever my GM comes in, he pulls me aside. He's like, I know you've been stealing. And I was like, no, I have not. I have not been stealing. So he told me what happened and why he thought it was me. And I was like, okay, I get what you're saying. Totally understand. That was because I was getting them for this customer. I am not a part of what she's doing. He didn't want to look stupid because he was just that type of person. If he thought he was going to look stupid, he would do whatever he could to crush somebody else. He told me there was no way that the cashier could have been doing all this by herself, which she easily could have, but there's no way she could have. So I was going to sign a piece of paper saying that I was also taking stuff. And I was like, no.
But hold on. What about the cameras? How did the cameras not pick up those 4 packs of cigarettes walking out of the store? Like, they didn't notice that she went to her car? Like, that wasn't on camera?
They thought I was working with her. It was on camera.
Wow.
They said because of that, I was working with her. And I was like, that's stupid. But so all this is going on. They tell me I have to sign this piece of paper saying that I was stealing this stuff. I told them no. They're like, if you don't sign this, we're going to fire you and your wife because she worked in the coffee shop in the building.
What?
And we've got a kid. So
right.
We can't both lose our job when I'm struggling and we're already behind and stuff like that. So I signed it. And I got taken out in cuffs, went to court, all that stuff. I was in jail for like 30 some hours. Went to court, got all that figured out. I think it's still on my record, but it was just a misdemeanor because I had a really good lawyer. And
what charges were they trying to get you with? Like that 13 grand? Did they want it back?
Felony theft. Yeah, because they didn't care about getting it back. It was just they were trying to get me on felony theft, and my lawyer was like, "This is all circumstantial. You all got him under duress. First off, you threatened his job and his wife's job, and of course there was no hard evidence, all this stuff. But she was presenting all this to the judge." And was like, listen, my client didn't do anything. He's willing to take a misdemeanor just so all this goes away. And the judge was like, all right, bet, cool. It can be a misdemeanor. Fine. So I got a misdemeanor. She got felony theft. And then she went to jail for a little bit.
Who? The other girl?
The cashier. Yeah.
So what was your wife's thoughts on this? Like when she sees you was she there?
She was off that day, and she ended up obviously finding out because I called her. Did she bail
you out?
Yeah. Her and her mom did. And I told them what happened. Like, I told them straight up what happened. And I was like, I had to save your job. I couldn't leave us both jobless. And so she was good with that. And she understood the type of person that the GM was. If you knew him,
right, because she worked there, so she worked there, so she would have that inside intuition that something was off.
She completely understood that he would do that. Also, one of the people that I work with now, I found out that they worked for the place that we were at. So I found out she worked there back in the day, and I told her all this stuff, and she was just like, oh yeah, all the things that he's done to me. And I'm not surprised he did that for a second. I walked in on him doing blow in his office one day. Like that was the type of manager
Right.
he
And
was.
I can remember those days when I worked in a restaurant. We were all going in and out of the office. Like that's restaurant bartending,
This
like
was a
that
grocery store.
industry.
This was a grocery store,
Bro,
homie.
I believe it. I believe it though. It's like that is the same as it's probably just as toxic as the restaurant and bartending business, to be honest with you.
It was kind of similar just because it was on campus. It was a campus
Right.
place. But so all this stuff happens. I got that job doing the tree service, and this is when I started. I worked at Walmart for a little bit, and I got fired from there because 4 months later, they found out that all this stuff had happened. In my little application and everything, it asks, have you been convicted of a crime? I have not yet been convicted.
Right. So
no.
you can't put it down. So in your mind, you're telling the truth because you haven't been convicted.
And it wasn't have you been convicted of a crime. Sorry. It was have you been convicted of a felony. And
I was just about to say that. Right.
So I worked at Walmart. While I was at Walmart, there was an inside job from somebody else.
But wait, what? Going back, when you initially got the job, so how did they find out? Do they run like your record every now and then? Is that a thing?
They do regular background checks.
Really?
They redo it. And I think it was because they were actually trying to put me in to be a manager. They wanted to put me in a manager position. So they re-ran it just to make sure, because I work hard. I'm always good at the jobs that I do. So they were re-looking into me, and they found that. They told me, so there had been a string of inside job thefts of iPhones. Of course, I was in the electronics department. They found out later on it wasn't me. It was some other random person in like a different department. But all that had happened, and then they called me in. They're like, hey, we found this out about you. The manager of the store was like, I am currently fighting for you. I don't want you to go. I know you didn't do anything. You're a hard ass worker. I want you to be here, but it's not up to the managers of the store. It's up to Walmart's like all in
corporate. Yeah, like their corporate policy, basically.
Right. So HR said, no, we can't have them, especially because it was for misdemeanor theft. So I get fired. I'm doing the tree cutting job. I start my restaurant work. Then the break-in happens. So that's obviously an issue. I quit the tree cutting job because my mom was the one that was watching Jax whenever I had to do that job. And she was completely useless. I kept having to call in all the time because
she wasn't reliable.
She's completely unreliable. So we were just like, whatever, I can't do this job. I'm sorry. It sucked, but there was nothing I could do. So then I'm working in the restaurant industry. There were people there that were doing all types of stuff. I had hella connects. Everything was going on.
Like you looked forward to going to work because you knew it was like a candy shop. You could get whatever you wanted. That's how I used to be.
And I was cool with the people that were there. So like we were all kicking it. We were having a good time.
Right.
During this time, this is when Annika cheated. So I found out I was at home one day and I can't remember what happened, but it was just kind of obvious. She had this dude that was a family friend for the longest time that lived in Georgia. She had just gone to Georgia for like a week to hang out with that family and her family and all types of stuff. And I can't remember why I stayed home. We needed the money. So I was like, I can't take that time off work.
Right.
So while she was there, I had questions about this dude before, and she assured me there was nothing going on. But while she was there, things happened. I Just like, I'm trying to remember. I feel like I just randomly had that feeling. Like whenever she came back, she wasn't the same.
It's a
So
gut instinct and it's your intuition. And I've learned the hard way that intuition is always right on point.
usually it is, yeah.
Right.
So I found out that like I looked through her phone, I think it was she was being super super shady, and I happened to peek over at her phone, and she was texting him, and I remembered seeing a I love you, and I was like, oh no. So I grabbed her phone, went to the bedroom and locked the door and started singing because I knew
And
what
when you go through that, it's like your heart, your hands were probably shaking, your heart's pounding.
is.
You're in the rattles because you know that what that person was trying to tell you was all lies. Like you see the way that they react with someone else.
Well, and it's not like we really, really loved each other or anything, but if you're done, then just say so. She was trying to fake it for Jack so that, he had a stable family and for her image and stuff like that. And so I found all that stuff out. I told her I wanted to be done. And then the very next day, I had to go to work. She ended up going to the courthouse and filing for divorce before I could, so that she would be the one that filed so that she could look better. So,
Wow.
so yeah, she, and
But that quick, it went right from like you found out to divorce because that's a difference with my situation. I allowed that to just continue. What made you say, like, I'm done? Like, that was just, you're done because you weren't in love or because you were so hurt?
it was a little bit of both. Like, if you cheat on me, I can't trust you.
Right. It's a respect thing. It's a loyalty thing. Like,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I couldn't do it no matter what. I mean, there was no question in my mind. And again, we did not love each other that much. And as much as we were trying to stay together for Jax, I knew better than to do that because my parents stayed together when they shouldn't have for me. And it made my life a living hell all the time. So,
Right.
and Annika and I always argued, I mean, literally all the friggin' time. And I didn't want to do that around Jax. And it was bad. So all that happened. And I was just like, I couldn't do it. She made sure that she filed first so that she would get kind of bragging rights and she would get a better chance at Jax. Because if she files first, she can spin the story and try to make me the bad guy.
Oh, I know that situation all too well.
And it's obviously not finalized or anything like that. So I can't remember what happened.
So you continue to live in the same household while all this is going on and unfolding?
Yeah,
Okay.
there wasn't really another choice.
Because of financial reasons, right?
Right. And there was some reason, and I think it was because of Jax, and like her parents were trying to get us to stay together because I told them what she did and they weren't happy with her and all types of stuff. So for some reason, we went to counseling. And I can't remember what the fuck prompted that. For some reason, we went to counseling, like marriage counseling, trying to make things work.
Right.
And I had already filed, but it wasn't all said and done yet. So it was kind of just whatever. So we're in there, and I decided I wanted to be completely honest with her. I was like, you cheated on me. I really I don't have feelings for you anymore. And I told her that I was struggling with addiction issues. And that was her in to just screw me over every single way she possibly could.
Because here you are getting to your wits' end. You were struggling, but were you thinking at that time like you wanted to get off? Like you wanted to be done with it? You were over it?
Yeah, I was still using, and I was drinking a little bit. I was doing cola a little bit, but it was like I wanted to be done with all of it, and I just didn't quite know how, I guess. And in restaurant work, it's a lot harder because like you have to be active and moving. You gotta do your thing to make your money. You being
Right.
sick in front of people is hard. And I used to do it all the time because I didn't have a steady supply. So
Right.
I mean, I would show up sick probably every fourth, fifth day and just had
Had to
to.
recoup the money so that
Yeah.
you could go do what you had to do. And it just kept being a vicious cycle. I
Yeah.
completely understand and relate to that in so many ways. But I really want to dig into, as a male, what does it feel like to be cheated on? Because as a woman, I know what it feels like, but I really want to hear a male's perspective on what thoughts were going through your mind and how did you feel?
A little bit of it is pride because it's just like I don't know,
Right.
and maybe it doesn't have anything with being a guy, but whenever you're in a relationship, it's to me at least, you are committed to that person, especially married. Like you are
Right.
committed to that person. So lying and sneaking around and going behind my back and telling some other dude, yes, you've known him for a long time, but you went and screwed him, and you guys are saying, I love you and I miss you, all this stuff.
Right.
And it's just like, it wasn't just like it was a one time thing. It was like I'm having a secret relationship behind your back. And it's just like, I know we didn't love each other, but if it's to that point, I I expected you to just end it, so why didn't you end it?
That's what I never understand about cheating. It's like if you're making that conscious choice to step out on that person, why don't you just leave that person?
Yeah.
Why take their heart and hurt it and continue to wound that person? Because it breaks you down mentally.
In trust wise, I mean,
Right.
I did not learn healthy like relationship trust practices in my first relationship because she was very clingy, and she was just literally all about the fact that it's me and you, and that's why she didn't like me going out and hanging out with friends because she was so worried I was going to do something. Motherfucker, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just trying to kick it with my friends.
Okay, so you went from one unhealed relationship to the next.
Kind of.
Right.
And because Amanda and I, we were like I said, we were those high school love, and we were like we kind of learned everything about relationships from each other. So like that is the initial I guess
Experience.
initial
Experience.
experience you get in a relationship. So you think that's how it's supposed to be, kind of. And
Yes.
you learn a little bit better whenever you date more people and you're in a long-term relationship, but some of that still kind of sticks around with you just because it's your lived experience and what you've learned so far. So I already had issues with trust because Amanda had done all that stuff and lied about me having a child with her.
That's a lot. How did you
Yeah.
deal with that? Like, that is a lot. Did you connect with this child?
She didn't give me the chance to. On top of the fact that I wasn't seeing him because she just made sure I couldn't most of the time. And that was my punishment because I broke up with her. Like, that's why she did that. But
Wow.
it was just, I don't know. It was one of those things I don't think there's never been something that's got to me so much. Like that one hurt. Even besides the cheating and all that stuff, you mess with the kids like that, and to hold a child hostage from me for years only to tell me that he's not mine. Like
Right.
that's fucked, homie. So that was kind of a lot. And then I have trust issues with just women in general because of that. And then Annika cheats on me. So it kind of turned into like, okay, I cannot trust women because they're all fucking slimy bastards and they can all go to hell. So that's where my head was at that point.
Right.
Women were the scum of the earth, and it turned into, so I'm just gonna do what I want to do, and I'm gonna fuck who I want to fuck. I'm not getting in any relationships because all they do is play mind games and fuck you over.
So you guys were still living together?
No. We ended up. I went back with my parents.
Okay.
Yeah, because I couldn't be around her. Like the sight of her made me like literally want to vomit.
Well, I could understand. I completely understand.
I couldn't do it much longer. So I was seeing Jax. I think I had him like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, or something like that.
So did you only communicate when it had to do with the children, that like with him? Or did you guys communicate back and forth? Did you go like no contact with her?
Pretty much in the early days, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we would talk here and there about like his schooling and stuff like that. But again, she did all this stuff to me. And because I gave her a reason to come after me with the whole addiction thing, she used that to try and be like, you're the scum of the earth now. Nothing that I've done compares to what you've done. And so that was kind of the narrative. So she would push to everybody how horrible I was. And I'm not saying I was the greatest person ever. Obviously, I was having my own struggles and I was doing a lot of things wrong. But in the long run, it was
her version and your version are two different versions. And I think that happens in situations like that. Because you're thinking your relationship's one thing, you're thinking you're in a monogamous relationship, and all of a sudden, boom. Like where did that come from? And it is hurtful, and it is something that you have to process. Right. Like, so you went right into the hoe phase.
I did. And one thing I didn't mention about my ex, psychologically, while we were together, she's the type of person that nobody, Shan, my parents, literally nobody believed me until they really had enough experience with her and they saw it. So she's the type of person you could tell her straight up with proof, the sky is blue.
Oh, I know.
Sky's blue, okay? You can see it. It is very clearly blue. If that bitch believes it's red, she will die on that fucking hill.
You know what it is? It's delusional thinking. I completely relate to that. I do. It's like your version and their version of what happened are two different things. Completely.
And psychologically, that's a lot to deal with for a long time.
Oh, I know.
It's like that with everything. And it's like you're told you're always wrong. And you're basically made to feel stupid because she's actually so like narcissistic and stubborn. And it's like, actually, you're kind of the stupid one. But okay. So it took a long time for a lot of people to figure out what I was talking about when I would talk about her and just the way she thought. And yeah, a lot of people figured it out.
You know what it is? A lot of people like that wear a mask, and they only drop that mask off their face when they're with you in these certain situations. Mm-hmm. Other people don't see that side because it's hidden. It's hidden. And that mask comes off every time.
1,000%.
It drops right off. When they get mad or upset, or when you point out something to someone like that, their ego won't allow it. And the mask drops, and it's crazy. It's like a whole nother person comes out.
That's exactly how it was. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm living it. I understand.
People over the years, like, slowly kind of figured out how she was, because it takes a long time to really see it.
Right. And a lot of people, like, did she hide behind religion or anything? Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know, I just had this conversation with my kid's father because I feel like he's been real into going to church lately, but I feel like he uses that as like oh, I'm a good person. I go to church on Sundays. I do A, B, C, and D. Oh, but then you're on the dating websites talking to 1,000 people doing A,
Yeah.
B, C, and D. Like you're not living your life congruent with what you're saying.
The type of person that goes and gets blackout drunk and then goes and gets tag team in the bushes by a couple of dudes and then goes to church the next morning. Yeah. That
It's yeah.
that type of person. I get it.
It's just like it's like you get like a false. It's like a false person
Yeah. Yeah,
because everything
it's
about
all
them,
fake.
everything that you thought about them is not true. It's not reality. And also, I really don't think a narcissist is really truly capable of love. They don't know what love is. They don't know how to love.
So all this stuff kind of leads to the hoe phase, and it wasn't, I shouldn't even say hoe phase. I call it that because out of my entire life it was my hoe phase. But my hoe phase was, I had some people that I was like close with, that I hung out with every once in a while, that were there for me, that it just every once in a while we'd hook up, but they were
Right.
friends and like we were cool. I didn't just go around sleeping with anybody and everybody I could. And it sucked kind of for a little while there because it was just like I had all these opportunities to build relationships with people that could have been like really, really good relationships. And
That's where I'm at. That's exactly where I'm at right now.
yeah,
But
'cause
you didn't want to look outside because your head's still spinning with the bullshit.
it wasn't even that. I just had this decision that no matter what, if I cross that boundary past friend, they were going to do the same thing that everybody else did.
Right. That's Kyle, that's where I'm at right now. That's why I'm having such a hard time really truly moving forward because I feel like everyone's going to do the same shit to me.
And it's not like that. I found that out later on.
But how did you find that out? That's what I struggle with.
I think a big part of it was like whenever I got through this, because whenever you're fucking around with chicks and doing stuff like that, especially whenever they are friends, I had a couple of them that still kind of started to show me those signs of like, okay, this is why we aren't in a relationship.
Red flags. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what it is? You start recognizing those red flags quicker than you did the first time.
It was just all kind of exhausting, I guess. That's probably the best term, because between all the drama with them, because some of them were trying to like have relationships all of a sudden, whenever I was like, no, that's not what I want. I'm still struggling with addiction and it's getting worse and worse and worse. I don't have anything. I'm stealing like my dad's pain pills from
Right.
his freaking closet.
I've done that. I've switched them. I've taken
That's what I
pills
did.
and I used to put like Tylenol or a pill that would look similar to it in the bottle so that they wouldn't notice. How dangerous is that though? Like I didn't even care.
That's what I
I didn't
did
care.
too. Yeah.
Didn't care.
Well, and they figured it out. My dad noticed.
My
finally.
parents figured it out too. I did the same thing. Isn't that crazy?
And I blamed it on I was taking Ambien for a little bit and I would black out whenever I stayed awake on it, and I told him I must have been doing it when I was blacking out. All that stuff is going on, and I'm really trying to think what pushed me to the point where I did move on. What I think it was, so again, even though Amanda was not like, obviously she made mistakes and she lied to me and hurt me and all that stuff.
Right.
Even though Amanda made those mistakes, I kind of understood why. And whenever we were together, that was still the happiest like relationship I had been in. So I still kind of told myself I wanted something like that again. Like we were that close together, and we were on the same page about everything, and we wanted to hang out with each other. Because I remember whenever I got with Annika, I didn't care about her like at all. So I went years kind of feeling like I was just trapped in this little box. And that was where all these relationships kind of built out of, where I was sleeping with other chicks and stuff like that.
Did you start to feel like that enough is enough? Like you were over that lifestyle?
Yeah, I kind of got to the point you get tired of waking up, drunk all the time and hungover, and you get tired of all the extra drama because you'll sleep with somebody and it's not the same anymore, because before it was just a fling, but now it's happened a couple of times and they want more. And it's like you can be as honest as you possibly want and tell them from the beginning, I do not want any more than this. And
Women get but hold on. There's a difference between men and women, and I say this all the time. Women are more emotionally connected when it comes to stuff like that, when it comes to sexual stuff. Men can do whatever. Like, it's not the same for a man and a woman, I feel like.
so
Unless that's been my experience, because
So when it comes to that stuff, I really think it's your experience, because women are more likely. I do believe that women are more likely to be kind of in that position where they do get more emotionally attached.
right.
The only reason I did not get emotionally attached was because I had been so hurt beforehand. It was like stopping me from getting that attached.
You saw the red flags, and you felt your intuition. You went with your intuition that something was off.
Because in between Amanda and Annika, I had a couple of similar relationships and stuff like that. And I was also attached, and not so much that I was like, oh, I want us to be together. Like, I was really, really searching for something, but I did
Right.
want to have quite a few where I was like, I do want this to be more. And some of them didn't feel the same way. So it only changed once I had been hurt enough. I kind of moved past that, where that just wasn't a thing anymore.
Right.
So yeah, so that was all kind of a thing. But whenever I met Shan, so I met her at work.
I just got to highlight something. You like the girls that you work with, man.
You got to understand, I work a shit ton. So that's where I formed a lot of my friendships, obviously, because I worked a lot. But at
Right.
the same time, I had plenty of chicks that I was kind of talking to and stuff, that they weren't from work, but they couldn't handle the fact that I worked, because I wanted to make my money and I was in grind mode and all that type of stuff. So they did not like the fact that I did not give them the time they wanted, because
Right.
I'm going to make my money and then I got you, but I'm trying to build. And I was trying, it was because I was putting that focus towards the wrong thing, because it was all starting to go towards the pills and all that stuff.
Right.
If I would have been putting in that focus like I am now, where I'm building a business and I'm trying to grow my life, that's a little different. I'm still in grind mode, but I understand a little bit more about how to handle things like that.
Balance.
So yeah, just balance and understanding how to make the time count and stuff like that. But so yeah, I met Shan at work and started hanging out with her. Like, her and I talked for a while. She had just got out of her whole divorce and all that stuff. And instantly we clicked. We talked all the time. We hung out a couple of times. And we just ended up kind of like telling each other that we were going to have a little fling too and call it good. Wasn't meant to be anything more. And then next thing I knew, we were hanging out every day, and it felt comfortable and it felt right. So Yeah.
That's what my therapist keeps telling me. My therapist keeps telling me, Marie, you will recognize red flags in people now because of doing the work that you've been doing on yourself. But also, when the right person comes along, it's going to just feel natural. You're just going to go with it. Like, you're not going to even question it. But I haven't been there yet because I see the red flags. I already see so many red flags in certain people that I'm just not interested. Right now, I'm just not interested. That's the thing.
It took me 2 years, somewhere around there, to even find that.
Right.
It might have been a little bit longer, but yeah, it takes a while. And I was hanging out with people, getting introduced to people all over the place because I was out hanging out. My one of my managers, me and him hung out quite a bit. He was in like the drag scene. So we would go to this like drag bar all the time that's in town, and all of us would go there and hang out, show him.
Sounds like fun. I used to hang out at places like that back in the day, and it was fun. You get free entertainment.
Gay dudes are, one, half the time they're hilarious, and two, they hang around some of the finest chicks every time. Like so it was kind of like I was going into a lifestyle where I was like meeting all types of people, so I had the opportunity to, do my thing. I feel like you don't quite have that. You've got too much going on, and you aren't able to, like, you aren't working and stuff like that. So the meeting new people, it's a lot harder nowadays anyways, but you just aren't seeing those new people, so you can't really get anywhere with it yet.
Right.
But you will. Don't worry.
Now, so Shan had kids in a prior marriage, right? So you guys pretty much blended your family. Was that hard, like dating someone that has kids? Because that's another thought that I always think. I'm like, damn, I got 4 kids. Like, but also I know that if the right person came along, they wouldn't care how many kids I had.
Whenever Annika and I split, I used to worry that was going to be an issue. Like, I have a kid, so I'm never going to find somebody. It literally never once affected any person I was kind of trying to pursue or anything like that. Not one time. And I know there are the people out there who it will affect, and some people won't be about it, but I don't think it's as bad as people think. And I feel like Shan felt the same way. And like, I already had a kid, I didn't care. Now hers were a little bit older too, so it was a little bit different. But
how many kids did she have, and how many, like, what was the blend?
She had 2, I had 1, and then we have 1. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a little different, but like, we were all cool. Really, there weren't any problems. I had kind of stopped using for a little bit there. During this point, like, I had got onto methadone after the fact, and because my buddy was getting some of that, and he would sneak it out for me every day, so I was taking that constantly. And then Shannon and I had been in a relationship for a little while, and I ended up having my guy got busted, so we couldn't get any more down. And I ended up having to go, like, I didn't have connects anymore because that was so solid that I got it all the fucking time. So they're just, I hadn't had to search for a while, and I went through that withdrawal. That was hell on earth.
I've been through that one too, without having to take anything, cold turkey.
Yep.
But I honestly don't know how I got through it, because the precipitated withdrawal coming off of that was a whole nother level.
It's like your bones just feel like they're on fire. You don't want to. That is the one opiate withdrawal that I went through where, like, I actually felt like I could lay there because I was so weak. But if you tried to sleep, you couldn't move at all. But
I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't nothing.
Yeah, if you tried to sleep, you would actually you twitch nonstop and you'd move all
Right.
over the place. If you weren't trying to sleep though, like you would just be dead and it was horrible. Had to get up constantly. I remember always like every night I would take like 2 baths every single night because just I was in so much pain. My back hurt, my knees hurt. So I'd get in the a hot bath and I would just like be in there like this, just crying because dude it just sucks. So
Right.
got through that, and then yeah, whenever I got completely off everything, that was that was amazing. It was great.
So
Like
how did that come about? Did Shan say something to you? Did you like did
no,
you
I lost my connect and I was happy. So, I didn't have the same stressors. I was respected at my job. Like I was the top one of the best people they had. So it was kind of one of those where I told my bosses kind of what was going on, and they're like, "Take the time you need." Uh,
good?
and I got 9 days off. I tried going back to work on day 9 and I made it a few hours and then I was like, I can't do this. And then day 11 I went back to work and yeah, I was good from there.
And when you went back to work, did you have like no energy still? Were you kind of not like that?
No, because you gotta remember. So people talk about all the time where they're just miserable for weeks whenever they're going through this stuff. You do not have to be miserable. I'm telling you, it is all what's going on in your life. I had Shan, so I was in a decently new relationship and I was happy. So I had a good, supportive distraction, and my dopamine levels are higher just because she's naturally making me happy. I'm
Right.
I'm comfortable. I didn't have the stress of work that time. I didn't, and Clifford is right. I did not sleep for days. Like I did not
I
sleep
remember
so
I went through the
long.
same thing. I felt like I didn't sleep for months, to be honest with you. It was a long time before my sleep, and my sleep still messed up. Like, but that really messed my. I don't know. It made me realize that it was long. It was torturous.
Well, and Doan was by far one of the hardest withdrawals I've ever gone through. But at the
Same.
same time, I was on, I think it was day 6. On day 6, I was up at least taking walks and like playing Pokemon Go on my phone. That's
Okay.
that's how much of a difference. I've had people who said after 2 weeks they still haven't been able to move out of bed.
Right.
How much of a difference having the proper motivations and doing the
And
right
the right
thing.
support. You need the right support. It all
Yeah.
goes down to having someone meet you where you're at with compassion, love, and support.
It makes a huge difference, and you
It
don't
does.
necessarily need somebody there. It helps because if you don't have a person to help you, you have to have those natural things that are going to get the chemicals working in your brain again. That's the problem. Those chemicals are all out of whack and you have to reset it and reteach your brain.
For
So
me, it was walks. For me, it was going for
yeah,
walks.
yeah,
That's what helped
walks.
me the most.
Walks were great.
Nature, connected with nature.
Tiffers at whenever I was coming off the dome, I did not take anything to help me. I was doing like a lot
Me
of
either.
protein shakes and stuff, but nothing else.
Me
I
either.
literally had nothing. And
Ooh.
I stopped counting my withdrawal on day 23, I think it was. Like I was to the point where I felt like I was good. And
Wow.
most people, whenever they go through it, it's like day 30 and they're still in bed.
For me, I'm telling you, it was like 9 months later because I was coming off of benzos and the methadone, cold
That was the
turkey. And that right there, I was screwed up for like a good 9 months, like bad.
that was the benzos.
Right. I was
100%.
bad. It was so bad for me.
Yeah, that was 100% the benzos.
Absolutely. And that's why I fear them so much because I know, man, I was having seizures. I was having myoclonic jerks. Like I couldn't stop twitching. It was bad.
I had the twitching thing. That was the dome too.
Right. I would just lay in bed and like twitch out of nowhere. Like that's what would happen.
Yeah, that though, like all that stuff, I guess it just made me stronger. So like I figured out I could finally get through the worst. And so I did it and I was good. Yeah, everything was all good. I have no idea what caused me to go back because everybody always says there had to be, something that happened, and we were struggling a little bit for money, but like I knew I had a baby on the way and
Can
stuff.
I also tell you something? For me, happiness made me go back. There was a time where I was sober and I rewarded myself because I finally felt happy for once. We do that as addicts.
Well, and you tell yourself you can control it.
Right. This one time I could do this and have a good night tonight and relax. No, it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way because then the next day you wake up and you're like, you know what? You know, I relaxed last night. I need that again tonight.
Yep.
And you justify it.
This is when I got to the point where like I caused myself to almost get unalived because I was being foolish trying to sell stuff.
And the people that you were effing with weren't the right people, right?
Yeah, they weren't the right people. I almost caused myself to get unalived. We had no money. We were just shit out of luck for so long, and it was all 1,000% my fault. But I like the fact that you can take accountability because there's a lot of men that can't. Yeah. It was 1,000% my fault. I let myself fall back into I knew it was a trap. I knew what it was, but just in my head, it was all okay. And I was just going to take it a couple of times, and it spiraled into a worse place than I ever was before. So
that's happened to me too before. You reward yourself and
it sucks.
Right.
So whenever Shan found out that I was using again, she told me very early on in our relationship that if she ever found out that I was using, that we would be done. She said that like 3 days in, and I told her okay. But I didn't think after everything, like we had Carson at this point and all of it, I didn't think after everything that it would really, really happen like that. Like, I understand you have to take accountability, and I understand how pissed off I would be if she was like, hey, I'm using whatever.
Right.
And
you put yourself in her shoes.
Yeah, and I totally get being pissed. No questions. I get it. But then it turned into her doing other things that she said she would never do. So she told me she would leave. She followed through on that promise, but then didn't follow through in saying what she said it a million times. I will never take Carson from you. I'll never hold the kids hostage or anything like that. And I was like, and so I trusted her on that, and she kept her word with leaving, but didn't keep her word with that. So then it was just another like opportunity of a woman just completely fucking me over, and it was just, I don't know, it was a whole thing for a long time. But
I feel like as a woman, and I'm going to stick up for her, I feel like at that time she had to do what she needed to do to protect her family and her children. Because if you're out doing A, B, C, and D, there has to be the person that thinks with logic and says, you know what, right now I have to do what's best. But she probably was waiting to see those changes in you before she wanted to allow the children around you. As a mother, I understand that.
And I get that too. I was already in the process. Whenever she found out, I was pretty much clean. I think I had used like just once or twice, but I wanted to be better, so I had got myself off everything.
Well, that gave you the extra motivation, though, to be better.
Sure, but it was
Gave
it
you
was
that extra push.
and it was before all of this happened though.
Okay.
Like I literally got off everything, and then she found out. And then I had to explain I'm not using anything. I haven't for quite some time, blah, blah, blah. But I get what you're saying with the being safe, but that is also why I went to rehab.
Right. Now, see, I know both sides of that because I've had my kids taken twice. So I do know how hurtful and painful it is. That's why, like, even with me now, with my co parenting situation, I want my kids to have a father that's present. I try my hardest to work around certain things, but I also have to protect myself at the same time. Like, boundaries for me are important right now.
Yeah. And
And I'm sure she felt like her boundaries at the time were important to her. I'm just trying to go both sides here.
no, 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 no. And I understand both sides. And I mean, there is a reason we got back together and we're okay. Because
Right. And
I get it. I
yeah,
do. It just,
it hurts. It hurts. It does. It's like, because that's your child. Like, you don't want that interruption because as a parent, it made me spiral. When my kids got taken, instead of doing the right thing, I spiraled.
right. And it was Shannon and I were almost perfect for each other, but also the worst possible thing for each other. Because when all that happens, she was also in a 20-year relationship, like literally, that was horrible. Just
Right.
he abused her the entire time. It was the only relationship she had ever been in from the time she was a freaking kid.
Wow.
So she was in this relationship for so long, and he was a freaking narcissist, just crazy, tried to get her to do all types of weird shit, and like it was all types of stuff, and he was mentally abusive, all this stuff. So it was like whenever this happened, she had issues from that marriage that she
Right.
had not resolved, and her and I had been trying to work on throughout our relationship, but those issues kind of came back, and then everything was happening with the kids, and I kind of came at her bad, and it turned into like her and I were not good we put it all out on the table, and literally we're at a point where we hated each other, like
I can
every
relate to that.
fiber. It was a very, very nasty time, but in the midst of all that, we got all the dirty laundry aired out, and it kind of fixed things, because then I told her, she wanted me to go to rehab just to make sure. I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay sober after all of this is going on. So I'll go to rehab. That's fine. So went to rehab, unfortunately was forced onto subs because the doctors told her that subs were the only thing that was going to keep me sober, which that was the biggest load of bullshit ever. I needed help, but I definitely could have done it without. But whatever. It still served its purpose. I did not use.
Right.
So after I was in there for a couple weeks, she found out that there was this other chick that was trying to get with me while
Of course, every time you're in a rehab, oh my, Kyle, we need to do a whole.
Not in rehab. It was from before.
Okay, because I know those little rehab hookups. Like, I always used to have dudes that would try their hardest to get me to leave with them, and I'm like, dude, you're nuts and I'm nuts. We ain't going nowhere.
Our rehab was pretty strict and good. Like it was pretty calm. but she found out that, like, after her and I had split,
Right.
she found out that there was this other chick who was trying to take that opportunity to get to me. And, like, her and I had kissed at one point or whatever. But Shan found out about that, and she was just like, I can't handle, like, even the thought of someone else being with you and you being
Right.
with someone else. And she was like, I can't lose you. And we were like, okay.
And you know what that feeling feels like because you were through it before. So it's that feeling of being deceived and that feeling of knowing that it's like something got tainted. That's how she feels. Like that's how she probably felt. And her past trauma started to get loud for her in her head.
We also weren't together whenever that happened, though. You know what I mean? So,
but as a woman, it's still hard. I don't know, because women are emotionally connected and men are not. Women are different, Kyle. Like I'm sorry, but
they are for sure. They are for sure. But if she,
I can't just sleep with anyone. I can't just do that. Like,
well, and I didn't either.
okay.
But if she would have moved on and kissed somebody, it would have been the same exact thing.
Yes,
like,
you would have felt the same. Like, it's a sting. It's a bee sting.
Yeah, it just happened to be that that was the thing that made her realize that she did not want to lose me.
Right.
So
I understand that.
Yeah. So while
it reconnected you two. So that's how you two rekindled. And how hard was it to put down all those other things and for her to put aside her trauma? How long of a process was it for you guys to rekindle?
For her, I don't think it was that bad, because after she got everything out and she got the truth of, like, what was happening, like, whenever I got out of rehab, I think I was at my parents' house for like 2 days before I was back at the house, because she just wanted me back. But at first she was like, I need some time and you can come back after a little bit as long as everything's working out. And I went back right away because she wanted me there. But I don't know. For me, it was hard just because I had all that past experience and I trusted her not to go back on her word whenever it came to kids. So there was a little thing there for a long time.
A resentment, almost like a resentment forms.
Well, and I knew, I told myself she was just like every other chick who the second they find a chance, they will screw you over. So,
you know, I don't know. I feel like that about men.
And it's because of the stuff that you've been through. I'm telling you, the reason men and women are so jacked up all over the place, and guys always think women are cheating and women always think guys are cheating, it's because they are doing that stuff. But it's because there have been people, somebody started it in the past that put them on this path to be an asshole. But
you know what's crazy? Like, I always got accused of certain things that the other person was doing. That's like projection. Yeah. I never did any of those things ever. Like, I was accused of shit that was bizarre and crazy while I'm sitting here taking care of kids. And we all know it. You know it.
There's no trust just because so many people do this stuff.
Right.
And the bad part is there are actually very few, like, bad guys or bad chicks out there. Very, very few. But those few have tainted so many other people by screwing them over that now it's like a mass accepted thing where, like, all guys are bad and gonna cheat. And I'm a guy. I would not ever cheat. I don't care who it is. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care if I have a hall pass. It is just not in me. I cannot do it.
See, that's how I am. And that's why I have such a hard time swallowing the shit that I've had to swallow over the years. Because it's been one thing after the next that I've just had to, hey, suck it up, Marie.
Right.
And the hard part is all the time that I've had to suck shit up throughout these years, I was trying to stay sober. I was trying to do the right thing. Why would you try to even derail me off of the track that I'm on, a positive track? It's like some people just don't give a shit.
Well, it's just like my ex. They put on a face, and
Right. The
it's
mask.
all bullshit.
Right.
It's
I know.
all so they can get forward and
Or
basically.
they want to have their cake and eat it too. That's how I say it.
And they kind of want to have you as a little show pony. They don't actually care about you. You're just the piece that's there to make them look good. So yeah, I don't know. All right, are we gonna end up doing another round next week? Or that turned into story time over therapy.
Right.
We gotta dive into all the shit.
Right. Hey, I'll be therapist next week.
I'm down. We gonna do a round with you after this?
Oh yeah, we could do a round with me. I got a lot of shit I could talk about.
That might be like 4 or 5 episodes, huh?
Right. It's just, I think that when you're struggling, it's important to let people know that you're struggling sometimes because it gives me accountability. Like for me to get on and ask for help or check on me is because I don't ask for help, but when I'm struggling, I learned in therapy, Marie, the right thing to do is to ask for help when you need it. And that's what I'm trying to do. Right.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. We will end it at that.